As a leader, if you are not regularly saying no in a professional way that also feels comfortable for you, it's likely that your plate is going to get pretty full pretty fast. In this week's episode of The Happy Leader, I'll talk to you about a leader who fell into that trap and what we did to get her out of it. I'm also going to share some tips and tricks to help you learn how to say no in a professional way that feels really good so that you can free up your plate for things that matter most, both personally and professionally. Welcome to The Happy Leader. I'm Amy Sanchez, executive coach to some of the most innovative leaders and teams in Silicon Valley. I'll share stories and tips to help you navigate the most common leadership challenges so you can amplify what matters most: happiness. Have you ever been in a situation where you agreed to take something on and immediately after were filled with a sense of regret or even animosity? If this habit of taking too much on has started to lead to overwhelm, the good news is there are very polite and professional ways to say no without compromising your value or letting people down. In fact, learning to get comfortable saying no is an important leadership skill to master. It's not just about setting boundaries. It's about smart workload management, preserving team dynamics, and fostering a culture of respect and clear communication. It's also about having enough time to devote to the things that matter most to you, both at work and outside of work. Imagine this. You have one plate to fill. Each work project, home project, family or friend project, and personal project add to your plate. When too much is on your plate, inevitably something else falls off and creates a figurative and literal mess. The goal is to master the skill of filling your plate just full enough. To do so, learning to say no professionally is a must. In this episode, we'll explore why it's important to say no, what holds us back from saying no, and a story from the Silicon Valley archives that illustrates the positive changes that came when a biotech leader got comfortable saying no. And finally, actionable tips to help you find a professional way to say no that will help you manage your plate and feel more in control. Let's start with, why is it important to say no professionally? We talk a lot about saying yes. Yes in the beginning of your career. Yes to taking everything on. Yes to opening up possibilities. But not only does saying no protect you from being overworked and taken advantage of, but it also helps protect the passion and the drive that you have for your job. The curse of saying yes to everything or not professionally pushing back from time to time can lead to exhaustion, frustration, and resenting the job you once loved. Think back in the pandemic and how many people fell into this bucket. It can also hurt your ability to be seen as a promotable leader. But what holds us back from saying no? Fear plays a really big role here. Fear of disappointing others, fear of missing out on opportunities, and fear of being perceived as uncooperative or lazy. This psychological barrier is a significant one and can be directly tied to the role that we've played in social groups since childhood. The other key factor that I see play a role here is the person who is the consummate helper. That's how they see their identity, is helping others, serving others. People who see a need and without thinking offer to take a lead role in helping to organize a party, a new task force, helping to get someone up to speed, etc., etc. At some point, they can get overcommitted and stack their plate with non-promotable tasks. Now, non-promotable tasks are those tasks that are important for the company, but they're not going to help your case for promotion. For example, things like offering to organize an office party, offering to get somebody new on the team up to speed, offering to oversee any group that doesn't contribute to core business activities. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't do these things. These things are incredibly important. It is to say, be really clear on your goals and priorities and ensure that everything that you decide to take on ladders up to supporting those goals so that you feel fulfilled instead of resentful. For a senior leader that I recently worked with at a large biotech company, her knee-jerk reaction was to offer to help, and it was hurting her. Let's call her Minli. Minli was in a director level position at her biotech company. Her team was growing, and she wanted to position herself for a promotion to senior director. In order to do so, she needed to overcome her tendency to not speak up, or in her words, get comfortable saying no. For Minli, this tendency to comply and say yes to everything that came across her plate was partly cultural. With a Chinese background, respect for elders and status was taught from a young age, as was the expectation that women were supposed to defer to the needs of others. But these cultural norms were starting to negatively impact her ability to be the kind of leader that she wanted to become. We started by examining the unwritten rules that had been dictating her life. Then I asked her to rewrite the rules that would enable her to step into her vision of an effective leader. The ability to push back and the ability to learn to say no was at the top of her list. While she had been focused on what not to do, I started to ask her what would change if she started to embody the new rules. With a self-assured voice, she replied, "I would feel more confident, and I would really be able to advocate for my team." With the insight that this new path still catered to her desire to help, but also gave her the confidence she was seeking, we set to work. We started small. She practiced saying no in meetings where items were lobbed over her team but didn't belong in her function. Her script sounded like this: "That sounds like an action item that needs to be addressed. My team is currently laser focused on preparing the analytics needed for launch, and any non-urgent work item would compromise our timelines. However, we could take that on in 6 months." This approach freed up her team and started to break the habit of other directors tossing non-urgent and non-promotable tasks to her team. She began to gain confidence. We moved on. Next, she tried pushing back in meetings when things got heated. Anger and aggression were usually a trigger that caused her to want to placate her counterpart. Instead, she tried standing her ground. After one particularly heated meeting, when her team was being accused of providing incorrect data and therefore needed to work late to produce the right data, she stood her ground. Before, she would have quickly taken on the work without pushing back. Here's what she said: "I can understand your frustration at getting the wrong data. This data was provided to us from the marketing group, and my team used it to create the model to help predict future trends. However, these models are only as good as the raw data they are fed, which in this case looks like it was flawed. We are motivated to help make this launch a success and can recreate the model once we have the correct data. We have a couple options here. If you'd like us to work with marketing to get that updated data, I can get back to you with an updated timeline based on how quickly they can provide the correct data. If you want to get the correct data from marketing, I can have my team prioritize this and get it back to you within 2 days of receiving the correct data. Which one of these options sounds best for you?" Over time, she started to get more comfortable with saying no professionally and accurately representing her team's needs. She also started to garner more respect from her colleagues and found her team to be more receptive to her requests. Her conversations about a potential promotion started to sound even more promising, and Minli's leadership future looked much brighter. If you can relate to any of that, and you are in the habit of saying yes to everything or putting too many things on your plate, here's what you can do to increase your leadership impact. Number 1, get crystal clear on your personal and professional goals. This will help you better evaluate each opportunity that comes across your plate and understand if these opportunities get you closer or further away from where you'd like to be. Get away from the habit of offering to help with a knee-jerk reaction or saying yes whenever you see or hear the need. Look for the win-win and avoid the win-lose. Number 2, when a request comes through that doesn't ladder up to your goals, be direct but polite. Start with a positive note, then be clear and direct about your refusal. There's no need for elaborate excuses. If it's a request to help with something outside of work, a simple, "I appreciate your offer, but I won't be able to commit to this due to my current workload," is both polite and firm. At work, you can try language that offers an alternative, like, "I can't take this project on now, but I can revisit it next quarter." Or, "I'm not the best person for this task. Have you considered asking Simon Smith?" Say no to work requests selectively. You don't want to be the person who always says no. That's going to hurt your value. However, you do want to be selective about what you take on and use professional language to push back. That will help you garner respect. A good rule of thumb is to get comfortable saying no about 10% of the time. As always, practice empathy. Acknowledge the asker's needs or feelings. "I understand this is important, and I wish I could help. Given my current commitments, I wouldn't be able to give it the attention it deserves." Remember, the act of saying no is not just about refusal. It's a strategic decision that leaders make to prioritize, delegate, and focus on what truly matters for achieving their personal and professional goals, while also supporting their team's success. By mastering this skill, you will not only enhance your leadership capabilities, but you will also contribute to a healthier, more productive work environment. Thanks for tuning into The Happy Leader. I look forward to exploring more leadership topics with you next time. Thanks for listening to The Happy Leader. If you would like more information about me, Amy Sanchez, and our executive coaching and team leadership services at Swim Against the Current, visit swim-against.com. And if you liked this podcast, help others who could use the support find it by giving us a rating. Until next time, life is short. Stay happy.